This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill.
I'm somewhat more comfortable collecting real estate than I am collecting other stuff.
This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill. This morning, we interviewed Brandon Bateman from Bateman Collective. That's Brandon at BatemanCollective.com and BatemanCollective.com. Brandon is very skilled in the digital marketing space. I was very impressed with everything he had to say. I think Bill and I just were in a 40-minute class. Bill, what did you take away from it?
It was an absolute class on a few different aspects. Me and you aren't digital marketers by any means, and we're able to be selfish here on this episode and give him our scenario on how he might be able to position his business to help people like us. And then it ended up evolving into him being a passive investor on syndicated deals. So we're able to dive into his head a little bit with that as well. No, this was a great one.
We did get a little bit of multifamily syndication in there, which is always nice. And Brandon's typical, most common client seems to be a wholesaler, someone that's finding houses for sale with targeted ads. But we really talked to him about a company like ours, a smaller multifamily operator business, only working in two markets. How would you go about marketing a company like ours? And I was so impressed at how he diagnosed who we are, what we need, and gave us a solution just from asking.
I know it was like a consult call. Some of it was just like, all right, we'll get a quick 10-15 minute consult call from a digital marketer based on our business. And we helped him describe what we do to break it down a little bit. And you could see how he thought through this in 2 or 3 minutes and gave us a viable outline on how it would work.
Brandon Bateman, thank you for being here this morning. Really excited to learn about the paid ad space and how that goes with real estate, how investors can use paid ads to find motivated sellers. Tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got into the real estate world.
Yeah, good question. So I'm a little bit unusual, I guess you could say, in this world. I started as a marketer, not as an investor. At this point, I do invest in real estate, but I started as a marketer and then kind of found this industry as a great place that I could add value, and have become pretty ingrained with it. So that's kind of the story. At first, I was doing paid ads for a variety of companies. I worked with software companies and e-commerce companies, and just a variety of companies. And then we also worked with a few real estate companies. And at some point, we realized that's a niche that we really like. We stopped taking clients in any other space, and at this point, we're advertising in more than 120 different markets across the United States for motivated seller leads, and pretty ingrained in working with flippers, wholesalers, whatever. Basically, whoever's looking for motivated seller leads and needs a significant amount of deal volume, that's the type of clients that we work with.
That's awesome. So through your marketing and your paid ads, you stumbled into real estate. And now you're talking our language. You saw the potential in real estate investing, and all of the growth that we all focus on. How did that all come about? What was the aha moment when you went from that paid ad marketing expert for you to realize that real estate had to be your focus point?
It's a really good question. So for me, my third client ever was a real estate investor. I was introduced to them. I don't know if you guys know by any chance Cody Hoffine. You might know like Wholesaling Inc. If you know anything about the wholesaling space, they were at a time the biggest coaching platform in wholesaling. They're not anymore. But anyways, I ran into his business partner. I live in Utah. He's in Utah too. I was doing some work for an acquaintance of both of us. And I ran into him, and he basically said, like, we worked with a whole bunch of different agencies in this industry. We're convinced this digital marketing stuff doesn't work. Are you willing to take a look at it? So I did, and I was pretty not impressed with what I had seen like done in the industry so far. So I saw an opportunity there. They went from barely breaking even as a wholesaling company on that marketing to we did over $1 million in gross profit after a couple of years from digital marketing. And I think last year they did in Utah maybe probably about 3.5 million as a business, and then 1.5 million of that was from digital marketing. And that 1.5 million was actually their best ROI of anything. It was the quickest closing leads. It was the lowest number of leads to a deal. Therefore, the easiest for the acquisitions team. It's kind of checking all the boxes of what's better for them. So at some point, we had realized that this was working pretty well. So we started pursuing some other clients in the space. And then at some point, I looked at my business, and we had about half real estate investing clients and about half mix of everything. And I realized I really like one half of those clients, and the other half are kind of difficult. Um, they're a lot more difficult from a production standpoint. It's harder to find those clients. And I realized that we have a really strong advantage in this industry, and we're actually doing really high quality work. There are so many people working with us that were able to find success prior, but with the strategies that we were using, they were able to make it work. So that's kind of like I think a lot of businesses kind of have their story of why they niche down. It's kind of hard because you have to say no to some things to say yes to other things. But for me, like those things I had to say no to were like right in front of me. It's hard to like when you have a business like that, it's hard if someone reaches out and says like, "Hey, can you run paid ads for me?" It's really hard to say no, I can't do that because I only work with these companies. But we did find that by niching down, we got significantly better at what we do, and we got significantly more efficient, and we've grown triple digits every year since we made that change.
Focusing on that one specific niche is so important, not being distracted by the shiny items. Bill and I always say you get what you focus on. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're running paid ads, digital marketing for companies that are selling widgets, software companies, and these spaces already have advanced marketing. This is something that's been going on for a while in those spaces. And you come to the real estate world, and some of the biggest companies who are very good at real estate don't necessarily have that paid ad background, and they haven't utilized that technology yet, and you're coming in and showing them how to do that.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's a really different game. Yeah, because we were doing, I mean, I probably spent over a few years, I was doing the more custom work in the business, or at least involved in projects, spending over $100 million over the course of a few years. Companies that were generally very sophisticated with these kinds of things. So it was a good learning experience. Uh, if you work with companies that are kind of at the top of the game, then you learn how they operate. And then, yeah, when I came into the small business world a little bit, I didn't realize how much of those lessons could apply here. And yeah, there's a lot of people doing digital marketing in this industry, but there's what I found is that if we take the strategies that big companies are using that are kind of at the top of their game when it comes to utilizing Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO strategies, and we apply those to like more in bulk to these smaller businesses, we saw a pretty good outcome. And that's kind of I think the unique thing that we're doing is just that a lot of our strategies are significantly more powerful. It's kind of like I feel like the way a lot of people have done digital marketing, it's like I want to write a novel, therefore I'm going to go find someone who speaks English and knows how to write. And what that means is like you will get something written in English, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like a good book, right? Digital marketing is kind of an art. And what we strive to be is just the absolute best in the world at this particular type of it. And we've been able to achieve that, I believe, through having a lot of experience in it, but also all the data that we have from all the clients that we work with allows us to operate our company as if we are doing enterprise marketing. Because for client X, we may be only spending $5,000 every month, but for our clients overall, we may be spending $1 million a month. And aggregating all that data together allows us to function like a company that spends $1 million a month.
So you're efficient. And what I was able to get out of that was, me and Stephen talk about this a lot, is yeah, it doesn't matter if you're working hard and you're filling your days, using that analogy you said, is, as long as you speak English and you can write, doesn't mean it's going to be a good book. So you have to work efficiently, smart, and strategically, because it's important where you're spending those ad dollars because you have to get that ROI. Uh, does this have any similarities to that Russell Brunson click funnel concept? Is there any parallels there?
I mean, certainly. So let's see if I could summarize like in an extremely short way the I'm sorry, Russell Brunson ClickFunnels concept. He's basically famous for teaching a lot of people how to build online funnels, and the that is basically like an online series of experiences that people go through, like a landing page. And then when they get through that landing page, there might be an upsell opportunity. From there might be something else. And in some ways, yeah, he also would teach like some of the advertising to that, and this concept that a funnel produces results. We don't use ClickFunnels, but you could say what we do is kind of similar. It's a little bit different because that stuff's like that really advanced funnel building for the most part is used for like e-learning companies and stuff where you have like upsells and you have downsells and all these different things. For us, like the call to action is usually like get a cash offer on your house. So it's a more simple funnel, but it's still a funnel, right? We still use a landing page. That concept of like running ads to a main website isn't generally a great idea. I believe in, and we use landing pages, and those landing pages are multi-step funnels, but they're not nearly as advanced as some of the ones that Russell Brunson teaches. But by nature of the call to action being fairly simple for the motivated sellers that we're trying to reach, and in many ways, yeah, a lot of those concepts are pretty similar, but different.
I have so much to learn in this space. I didn't even know what a ClickFunnel was, but when you explain it, it makes sense. And the paid ads and how important they are. And I keep seeing that the dollars you spend on paid ads are relatively very inexpensive to the exposure you get and what you can make on them. And there's so much to learn there. Someone in my shoes who's been investing in real estate for about 2 years, I very little knowledge on this space. If I want to get started, you don't have to give away your secret sauce, but what can you tell me as a basic step one maybe to get started in this space?
Yeah, it's a good question. What are you doing in real estate?
So we're investing in multifamily assets in New York Capital District and Tampa, Florida.
Very cool. And I love that. I love that game. So how companies like yours use digital marketing would be different than a lot of our clients. But you would be, I mean, you're doing it right now, kind of, right? You're doing a podcast. You're doing that organic content strategy and stuff like that. Obviously, that's going to be significantly more important for you than it is for our clients, because motivated sellers don't just like follow their favorite wholesalers on social media until they decide to sell their house. Nobody cares about a wholesaler until the moment they are in a distressed situation, need to sell their house, and then they never care a moment after that, right? Whereas your situation, um, investments, I'm assuming you're looking for investors. Investments are made on trust. So continued exposure and demonstration of knowledge and all those things are what's good. So I think a content marketing strategy is a really good fit. Uh, Beyond that, with paid ads, like we have done a little stuff to find like multifamily properties to purchase. Although I'd say I think if you try to do that with digital marketing, you're kind of fitting a round peg in a square hole a little bit, because the thing is, there's some channels like direct mail, cold call, where you can target based on the property. With digital marketing, you can't do that. You can target, for example, on Google Ads, you could target based on the keyword, like if someone's searching for a way to sell an apartment building. But if you're really localized, like you only want deals in these markets, the problem is there's people searching from Tampa that own an apartment building in Indiana all the time. So when we tried this before, you get leads from all over the place, and maybe they're more likely to be in those markets, but they're also generally all over the place. So that's where I think, like, in order to use digital marketing effectively to to target the type of properties you're looking for, I think you have to be really flexible geographically on where those properties pop up. And if you could do that, I think you could make it work. Or you would just have to spend way more money and just throw away a lot of your leads, which I mean probably would work and probably would generate a return. But at the end of the day, there's probably more efficient ways to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, and that got me thinking in this larger multifamily space, especially in the syndication area, I'll see more paid ads for investors rather than sellers. You might have a team cold calling to find the sellers, but they have paid ads out there trying to get investors to invest in these deals. And that does make sense that that could be more general across the country, someone searching multifamily investing passively.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm kind of putting myself in your shoes and just saying like, what jump into paid ads is like the step one or the best thing? I'm generally not a big advocate of like dipping your toe in paid ads because what tends to happen is you like waste $500 instead of spending $100,000 really well. If that makes sense, where it's just like any money, no matter how small, is wasted isn't good. But I think there's one exception to that rule, and it would be if you stay within your community. There's a really cool kind of marketing and targeting online called retargeting. And the way that it works is people who visit your website or interact with you in some way on social media or whatever the case is, you can kind of tag those people as people that are kind of part of your community, so to speak. And then you can show ads to them. It's kind of like if you ever done research about a certain product on Google, and then you see ads about that particular thing following you around all the time. You can be that person following someone else around all the time. It's a way to continue to stay in front of people, which I think is advantageous for what you do, and it's very cost effective because I imagine your audience is going to be relatively small. The way that this industry works is you have a small audience that's extremely high value. You can raise a lot of money from 100 people if they're the right 100 people, right? So you're not like one of those people that has like these millions of people following you and stuff. It's just a few of the right people is all you need. So so along with that, if you can reach them with a Facebook ad, and each time you reach them, you pay like 2 or 3 cents, which is generally what it seems to cost in this industry. It could be a really good small budget activity, and you could do retargeting both on Facebook. You could do it on Google, like through the display network. That's like banners on different sides of ads and things like that. And you could do it on YouTube. Most platforms have some type of retargeting component, but I don't know what the size of your audience is. It's very likely that spending even $5 a day on a retargeting campaign could produce a pretty significant impact for you. But it's not one of those things that's worth like hiring an agency to do and stuff because it's just so low volume and it's a small enough thing. But retargeting is simple enough that you could get it set up yourself, and I think it'd have a good lift.
I'm sold.
Yeah, but still a specialty, still a specialty. So in the beginning of that, you were mentioning for people like Steven and I, it's hitting up the thought platforms, doing a podcast, being on social media, doing a meetup. General networking keeps us relevant in the real estate multifamily world. But then you continue to break that down. Anybody that we do interact with, whether it be on social media, or I guess social media would be certainly our target, but to really drill down on anybody who interacts with any of our posts or any way, shape, or form, and really drill down and keep in constant contact with them by using certain keywords and techniques on social media. You mentioned that it would be too small to hire an agency, but I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah, fair enough. To give just some simple examples, and you can go to YouTube and search like how to set up Facebook retargeting. I'd start with Facebook. In my opinion, Facebook's probably the most robust retargeting platform, um, just because they have a really good way of tagging people. So there's a larger pool, and it sounds like you're already doing a good bit on social, anyways. So so you can, yeah, if you can like go to YouTube and look that up. I mean it's technical, but it's nothing insane. But the way a lot of companies like yours would do it is, for example, when you like basically you create an ad account with Facebook, you're going to have to find some way to tag these people. So usually you put some type of code on your website. You also would have be able to tag people that are like interacting with your Facebook page and things like that, and you put them into an audience. And then the ad account, you basically tell Facebook, here's my budget, here's my audience, and then you give it ads. And what a lot of people would do is, for example, every time they launch a new podcast episode, you might make an ad about that podcast episode. And now, like, I bet you probably have an email list and you probably email out your podcast to the people on that list. But the reality is there's, for every email that you have, there's another 10 people that never gave you their email address that did look into you or something like that. This is kind of your way to stay in front of those people. And you continue to push it out like that. And then once in a while, you have a pretty strong call to action where you like put out an ad that says like, we have this deal available and we're raising capital, submit your information through this form to learn about it, schedule a call, like whatever it is that you do. So you just add value, and then that's a great way to kind of take your entire audience and then like scoop up some leads, make sure everybody is aware of this particular opportunity at the right time when you need that.
This is really, really valuable
Damn,
stuff.
that's what we need to do.
Usually we're interviewing podcast guests trying to help them promote their company. This is a one-on-one class here. Really, really valuable stuff. I'm really impressed, Brandon. And when I ask you what's that first step, you could have just rattled off a textbook answer, but instead you diagnosed us and you're trying to give us specific treatment, which is really helpful, and you were spot on, which makes me think that this isn't the first time that you've done that. You've had a small company ask you, what do you suggest, and you have a go-to answer. That's great. So on that note,
I've done it too much, honestly.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about your coaching business
Perfect.
and how you do help companies like ours.
Yeah, so what we primarily work with is like real estate flippers and wholesalers. They're generally wanting more motivated seller leads. For our average client, probably buys somewhere in the realm of 20 to a couple hundred houses a year. And they usually, sometimes we've had people start with us. Digital marketing takes more capital than a lot of other marketing channels. So usually it's someone well capitalized in some way or another. But more commonly, it's people who are already, doing direct mail or cold calling or doing TV or radio or whatever the case is, with like we buy houses types of ads, and they're trying to generate leads that way. And what we help them do is move to digital marketing. They usually see a few benefits from that. You get an inbound type of lead, which is in this industry really valuable. Like if you look at a lot of our clients, the PPC is a channel that's famous for this. It generally will have the lowest number of leads to a deal of any marketing channel that our clients do.
And for anyone that's as unknowledgeable as me, PPC is pay-per-click, right?
Yes, pay-per-click on Google. Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And yeah, you're good. Thank you. I talk to my internal paid ads team way too much, and sometimes I just forget what's what's layman's terms and what's not. But yeah, that's the leads close faster than any other channel. It takes less leads to get to a deal than any other channel. They find that their deals are bigger than with any other channel, and the reason is if you look at like PPC and how it works, every other marketing channel, you go to someone else and you say, do you want to sell your house, right? On the most outbound standpoint, it'd be like SMS or cold call, where you're just like straight up going to them and asking them those questions. Slightly more inbound would be something like direct mail, but you still started by sending them a postcard, and then they chose to call you back. If we look at PPC, the engagement starts with them searching on Google. They actually type something into Google, and what this demonstrates is intent. Because it turns out what someone searches into Google is more predictive of their behavior than almost anything else, because it shows what's on their mind. You can kind of see their thoughts, and that is extremely predictive. Like, for example, of people that search sell my house fast on Google, an alarmingly high number of them end up selling their house pretty quickly after that time period, which makes these leads extremely valuable. So that's kind of the shift that a lot of clients are wanting to make when they start working with us, is they're wanting that different type of lead, those bigger deals, etc. It's not a cheap game, especially the pay-per-click game. Obviously everybody else wants those leads too, so it's competitive. But it's in my experience can have an excellent return on investment, and the deals can be large, and it's a really good consistent channel for the business, because new people are searching on Google every day. It's a constantly changing audience. So that's what we help our clients kind of achieve, and I think there's a lot of value for that. Many of our clients have already tried doing it before, but just due to the competitive nature of these platforms and the industry, it's really difficult. So that's where our clients kind of consider us to be like the big guns when they really need to get it right. This is who you work with, and we'll make sure it's done right. And in that way, our clients generally get significantly better results than they do like trying to do it themselves or working with someone else.
So much of our audience are multifamily
Hmm.
people, as well as Stephen and I. So I'm circling back. I know you mentioned multifamily may not necessarily work as well as the single family wholesaling, but I'm really trying to differentiate if you use those proper keywords for a motivated multifamily seller, or the other component that we have to achieve is funding our multifamily deals. So using certain keywords to attract potential investors. Is there a way, if you were to actually focus on those two components, that you would have similar success with multifamily?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have had success with Google search in multifamily. The caveat being the locations were all over the place, right? So we had decent opportunities coming across the table, but it is very hard to drill it down to like one specific area that those leads could come from. So that's one thing, right, to keep in mind for sure. I think is that that's there, and maybe if we get enough people that want to do multifamily, we can do some cool things with that. Like for example, we could target those types of leads, but more in bulk and across the United States, and then like sell specific leads or partner on those deals with people in particular markets or something like that. That's probably a decent model, just because it's hard to say when someone's searching, this person owns a property in this area, because all you know is where they are, not necessarily where their property is, and that makes it tricky.
Gotcha.
But if we found people who want to do multifamily and 50 different markets, and we just targeted nationwide and got some leads and then sent the right ones to the right people, I think there could be some serious value there. And then when it comes to raising investment, I personally do believe that yes, there's a strategy for that. I do not have experience with it. It's one of so we've been looking as a company recently at like how are we going to expand as we grow, and the thing that's a little bit tough about the industry that we're in right now is that we can only work with so many companies before we have oversaturation in different markets, and we're already selling out of many different markets, and we're on track to sell out of most of them by the end of this year. So with that trend, we we're looking for other places to expand, and I do talk to a lot of multifamily folks and stuff like that. So that's where we are. If we have enough interest on that multifamily side, we very well could build a good product around that. We're definitely in a position to do a good job there, but it it's a factor of competing priorities. Like, where's our next best place to focus our attention? So what we have to see is like significant levels of interest, and then potentially doing something like I had noted, where we do more of a nationwide strategy and then partner with people in different markets and stuff like that. And then like capital raising side, I know it's likely heavily regulated, but I bet there's a little bit of a learning curve at least there. But the fact of the matter is, it you're reaching people with ads that say something. It's kind of hard for that not to work on any level. The question is, how well would it work, right? Do you have to spend $100,000 to find $100,000 investment, or do you have to spend $1,000 to find $100,000 investment? That's the real question, and it's the answer I don't really, or it's the question I don't really have the answer to right now, because you don't really know those things until you try them. So that's something I would have interest in, but it'd be an experimental strategy to see what happens. And you could definitely start by patterning the strategies of anybody who is doing that successfully, because it sounds like you do know people who are successful with those efforts. Um, my thought is you could go about it a few different ways. You could advertise specific properties and things like that, or you could advertise more to like get people in your into your crowd, and then nurture them over time. I do expect, because you have what's honestly a pretty big ask, it requires a lot of trust for someone to want to invest with you. It's probably not one. It's not like our motivated seller leads, where it's like someone searches on Google and you get the lead, and then you close 10% of them, and you get money from them or something. It's probably a slow roll. Like, you give them content, they become part of your community. That person 6 months later invests in your project or something like that. So you'd have to be ready to play that game. But you know what? The multifamily game, anyways, is a slow roll, right? It's one of those good games that ends up really well, has strong cash flow and stuff. But it's not like it's not like you invest $1 into a property and you have like $3 liquid the next month. Like that's not how it works, even though that's how marketing for some companies works. So anyways, it'd be a longer term strategy, I think, than it is for some of our clients in other spaces. But I think it could be a very effective strategy. Obviously, the lifetime value to you of one additional investor is probably very high, because I imagine you have a lot of repeat investors as you continue to do a good job. So, you might just pay a certain amount of money to get this lead in, and they might just invest with you in the next 10 projects or something like that. And that could have pretty significant value, if you're willing to kind of front the money to build a relationship.
Yeah.
No, and that's what you just said, that the relationship is huge. So the thing that crossed my mind, not knowing anything about your business, if someone went to Google saying how to invest in real estate, where if it's through one of those searches and you're able to see those people who are asking how to invest in real estate, we're able to touch base with them utilizing your systems and then start the relationship. Maybe they want to be an active investor. Maybe they're too busy to be an active investor. And then we can start nurturing the relationship to get them as a passive investor on one of our deals. Does that make any
No,
sense?
it's absolutely, yeah, absolutely viable. Uh, yeah, Google search is interesting. My only fear with it would be most likely a lot of the people that are searching on Google. This kind of happens anytime you're looking for a small segment. I bet you a lot of them just wouldn't be qualified to do whatever you need them to do. Like, I don't know if your bar is like accredited, or if your bar is just they have to be able to invest a certain amount of money. I don't know what kind of deals you're doing, and who it's open to, or maybe both. But anyways, I guess the point being, I bet you there's a lot of like the most of the people searching on Google for how to invest in real estate. I would imagine that those people are looking for Dave Ramsey or something. A different kind of person. What you're looking for is the person who already has capital, and
Hmm.
it's a hypothesis that they're not going to Google looking at how to invest in real estate, but it's not proven. So
So if we
you'd
if
have
we
to you'd have to test it.
if we do start marketing specific deals looking for investors, then the investors would have to be accredited. Is there a way to narrow down our criteria so that we only hear from the accredited investors who are Googling? Can we get that specific with our search criteria?
With any digital marketing, there are ways to skew towards that, but there will generally not be ways to filter that. So to give you an example, you could, and this is why these things can take some time to build up, right? But one thing that's really important about digital marketing is that a lot of it's really driven by these AI algorithms that understand your customers and the data a lot better. And the reality is they have a lot more data than we do. So even if we're really smart, with the information we have, we won't be able to do it as well as this algorithm does, because it just is given more information. We're handicapped from the beginning. So that's where it's not like there's like targeting criteria that I'm aware of for like accredited investors. You could work with lists and stuff like that, but that's a little bit dicier, maybe not as all comprehensive. But what you could do, for example, is drive people to a landing page. When they fill out that landing page, they have to select, are you accredited or are you not? If they are accredited, then what you do is you report that information back to the ad platform, back to that AI algorithm, and you tell it, good job, this is what we want. And if they're not accredited, you basically don't do that. So what you can do over time is the algorithm can learn how to find those people, because it'll start to notice the people who are going through the form and they're marked as accredited. Those people have these characteristics in common, based on a predictive algorithm. And that's one thing that Google and Facebook are both really good at. And based on like the different keywords that they're searching, different demographics, different locations, different times of day, even different affinities, websites that they tend to visit and look at, um, all of these different characteristics about someone would go into a model to predict, are they an accredited investor or are they not? And that would get smarter and smarter over time to get you more and more of those types of people if you set it up right. Does that make sense?
Such a good answer.
No, that makes yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you just fine tune as you're going until you start getting the result that you're trying to achieve, and then you repeat over and over again. This is the Collecting Real Estate show, and me and Steven focus on building our portfolios, and most of our audience does as well. I know you had mentioned by getting into real estate or into targeting direct to seller in 90 different markets. Tell us about your experience collecting real
Yeah,
estate.
good question. I guess I'm one of your potential clients in the sense that I've mostly invested in syndications, and that's I mean, I know what I'm good at. I'm good at marketing, right? I'm not good at investing. So along with that, yeah, I only have so much time in the day, and in my opinion, working deals, managing deals, stuff like that is an active investment. And then, I only have interest in being passive because the time that I would spend doing that, I would make more money other ways. So anyways, that's what I do is I kind of invest in a somewhat diversified way with different operators and different markets in a variety of projects, multifamily, self-storage, stuff like that. And, for me, it's a game of depreciation against my ordinary income, and also a game of building wealth in those assets. And then it's like a half my investment strategy, so to speak. I also invest a good deal in the stock market.
It's funny because Bill and I are good at real estate investing, but we're not that good at marketing. And we try to focus on what we're good at, and the marketing is something that we need to get better at. And that's why stick to what you know and hire someone else that's really good at what they know. And that's how you really grow. How has your experience been with those syndications so far?
I mean, good. I only started doing syndications last year. So as you can imagine, the point of reckoning hasn't exactly come. Like it's all a long term game.
We're recording this July 15th of 2022. So we don't know what's going to be happening when this is
Point of
published.
reckoning
yes, exactly.
depends
Yeah,
on your market. Depends on your market and your operator. I guess right now, it doesn't take much skill to be an operator. Over the last 2 or 3 years, the whole nationwide everything is growing so much. But I guess
yeah. We'll,
time
we'll see what
tells, right?
happens, but anyways, I mean the tax benefits kicked in. If that's worth anything. So yeah, it's I wouldn't say I've had a good or a bad experience with syndication so far. I mean, I haven't gotten much back, but also I hadn't expected to get much back. I'm a little bit more on the growth side. I invested in more of, I invested in one project that was more cash flow focused, but the other ones were like more rehabs and that kind of stuff, a little bit more growth focused. Just because I'm young, and I think a little bit more of a risky strategy aligns a little bit more with where I'm at in my life right now. But that's yeah, that's what happened, and so far, like I've gotten little bits of cash flow from a few different projects. Others are kind of still using that money to do rehabs and things like that, and they'll produce cash flow in the future. But no bad experiences by any means. But for all I know, I'm going to get ripped off in 2 years, and that's when I'll know. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, we gotta talk. We gotta talk because that's we're legitimate operators. I've been doing this 29 years, and we do good deals.
That's great.
So, getting into your explanation of what you're investing in, we like the value add template, high rent growth potential, where we're able to reposition an asset in 1 to 3 year period of time, force that value. If the refi environment is palatable at the time, we refinance and all our investors get their money back. Is that a similar approach that you've been taking?
I think I have taken some syndications with that approach. I think others are targeting just a sale after 3 to 5 years. I don't. I mean, maybe the day comes and they say it's it's a good time to refinance. Let's just do that instead. I don't know. But off of memory, I think a little bit of each.
Are there any markets in
I'm definitely a
particular?
huge fan of the refi, tax-free, cash out of the property. I think that's
Yeah,
great.
and you keep your equity and you keep getting those
Yeah.
returns. Are there any markets in particular that you're targeting, or are you more so looking for operators?
I think more operators and diversification in markets. So, I intend to not have a whole bunch of stuff in any one place. I think one big advantage of syndications is from an investor standpoint is the ability to be diversified across a lot of places versus if I were to invest a significant amount of money in one property, then it's that one property, that one place, that one operator, which I guess could be me, which would be a probably pretty bad investment. Versus if I was to invest with a variety of other people, it's hopefully diversified on some levels. So if you get one bad operator, one market that's unusually bad, or whatever the case is, hopefully that's not damaging to the portfolio.
No, that's valuable. The power of diversification makes perfect sense. This is the collecting real estate show. So they say you have to have three of something to make a collection. We end our episodes with three questions for you. First one, in 5 words or less, what's the most important thing you've learned since starting collecting real estate?
Let's see, I have to count my words, but I'd say use data in smart ways. That's been the single thing that's been most impactful
Awesome.
for my business is having metrics, having analysts on staff that are great at analyzing those metrics, and focusing everything around how can we use data to make smarter decisions.
I love that answer. It's such a good answer, and it's
Well,
so
that's how you
different than
run your
anything else we've
business.
gotten before, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a digital marketer's answer.
Yeah.
But predictable based
Yeah,
on what his
yeah.
focus is. No, that's great. It's all about metrics. You have to constantly measure. If you're constantly measuring, you're able to adjust accordingly and drill down to where you're going to be successful. Second question, what are your 1 to 2 year personal goals outside of your business and collecting real estate?
Oh goodness. Yeah, it's like that is my person. But yeah, I've got a family too. I've got a wife. We have a daughter. She's about a year old now, and I'm working more now than I would like to. I'd like to have a little bit more flexibility around things. So I'd say if we were just putting all that stuff to the side a little bit, part of this it has to happen through the business. Like we've been behind on recruiting pretty much forever. I'm starting to learn that I just am always getting that wrong. So I probably got to figure out get ahead of the problem because I'm always looking for someone right when we already need them and not before we need them. But anyways, I think just getting more of that flexibility in my personal life to be able to do more things with my wife and daughter would be a big goal of mine.
All right, getting that business automated so you have your staff running that business and you're working on your business and spending as much time with your family as you
Yes.
possibly can. How can we and the listeners assist you, and how do we
Well,
contact
you
you?
can contact me. You could always reach out. Like, let's just say someone's interested in working with us. Through our website's a great place. That's batemancollective.com. And if someone wants to talk to me specifically, they can always reach out to my email, and that's brandon@batemancollective.com.
Awesome. You've been a fantastic guest. Boy, we've learned a lot here, Stephen.
Yeah, we did. And all that info will be in the show notes, Brandon's email and his website where you can reach out to him.
That's awesome. We're going to stay in touch with you, Brandon. We may need your help.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks,
Yep.
Brandon.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.